Welcome to Urbanomics on Cannabis Tech. I'm your host, Kristina Etter, and joining me today, of course, is my co-host, Tony Solano from Hemp Manufacturing. Welcome back to the show, Tony.
Hi, everyone. So excited about today's podcast. Let's roll.
No kidding. This is such an exciting topic, and this is exactly where I was really hoping to take this podcast when we first set this up, because it really, truly is, in my opinion, it's the products, it's the possibilities, it's the idea that all of these things can come from this one plant. So today we have invited Greg Wilson with HempWood onto the show to talk about all of these amazing things that are coming from plant-based, hemp-based hempwood. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. So, my name is Greg Wilson. I'm living in Murray, Kentucky, where we are the one and only manufacturers of hempwood in the world.
Absolutely amazing.
So now you've got somebody representing hemp plastics and somebody representing hemp wood. Oh, Urbanomics.
That is true. We got Tony out on the left coast trying to get this thing going.
And I make a whole bunch of interesting things out of hemp wood, don't I, Mr. Wilson?
There are so many things that can be made from hempwood, and from hemp, and there's so many things that we're discovering. But Greg, first off, before we really kind of dive into the company of HempWood and the things that are coming out of there today, can you give us a little bit of your background and talk about how this all came to be? Because from my understanding, this started several years ago, and at your hands.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the idea or principle of hempwood comes from back to 2003, where we started working with fast-growing plant fibers and trying to turn those into a wood composite or replacement for your tropical hardwoods. So the key to what we do is the density. The density of hempwood is equal to a 200-year-old Brazilian cherry. Your density equals your hardness, your stability, and gives you a fire resistance. That way, with our product out there, we can replace those trees that grow so slow and pull carbon so slow, but they're actually those beautiful giants in the woods, with something that grows in a farmer's field in 4 months. So we started with bamboo. We migrated to plantation eucalyptus. We did recycled woods, and when hemp became legal, we had already done all of the tests 10 years ago. And so we knew that it worked. It was just a matter of the semantics of putting it together in the United States.
Fantastic, fantastic. And tell us a little bit about, are there limitations? What all can be made from hempwood? Is it just as viable and as easy to use as other wood products? So if someone's building a house, is it just as easy to use hempwood as it is to use other materials?
So hempwood is a replacement for your face grade hardwoods. So oak, walnut, hickory, maple for domestic, and teak and rosewood and Brazilian cherry if you're talking about your tropical hardwoods. So if you look here in our office, you can see this is all hempwood flooring. You've got tables made out of it. You've got flooring, excuse me, it's kind of dirty in here. You've got desks, you've got cabinets, you've got all these interesting things that people make out of it, and they send us samples of it. You can see the knife handles and the duck calls and the bowls. You've got Alyssa, the mastermind of our marketing. Everything that you see online comes from her. This is just one of our banners here, but you can see our girl Christina from HGTV's just taking it on and said she wanted to be a part of the solution.
Ooh, tell us about that.
Well, Christina's actually pretty cool. I'm not much of a Hollywood fella, but I can say that we installed a floor at her house a few months ago, and we ended up having tacos and drinking like champagne in the afternoon. So it was pretty cool riding around on side-by-sides. Yeah, riding around on like side-by-sides in the Tennessee countryside on her farm, just day drinking and eating tacos. So she was really down to earth and pretty cool. We got to meet Josh, that's her partner. He was really, really cool guy. Mike B. Jack and my wife are there. Mike is our Flooring Lines Incorporated, represents us to the flooring industry. And so we all kind of just hung out and talked about life and how things were different in the city as compared to the country. And she's from California, like big city LA, and they just bought a horse farm south of Tennessee. She just bought it, I think, 6 months ago or so. And they're going to redecorate and try to get it set up to be where they spend most of their time. So people are getting away from the city. Everybody wants to have that quiet countryside living. Tennessee's a pretty nice place. It doesn't have state income taxes and things like that. So you're seeing a mass exodus from California, Oregon, Washington to places like Texas, Tennessee, Florida, where it's a little bit warmer, it's a little bit freer, there's a little bit less tax. But those people still have that same mentality of sustainability that they've learned by being around so many people. And they're bringing that with them to Colorado, like where you guys are, where they do care about what goes into their house. And they do care about what goes into your body. And so people would eat more of a fruit and healthy diet rather than a processed food diet. People will buy a natural hardwood as compared to a vinyl floor. And so that's kind of the whole idea that I think captured Christina's imagination or inspired her to use hempwood in her new house. She just kind of saw it as the local option that was pretty cool and got a hold of us, and it's gone from there.
Mr. Wilson, I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Solano.
Is flooring where hempwood delivers its greatest value to the market right now?
So there are a few areas of significant benefit. So the density that we talked about turns into a very hard flooring. And so you can use it in commercial spaces where other traditional, even hardwoods, don't fit because high heels can ding and dent them. So yes, the hardness gains significant value over its other competitors or competition in that area. I can say that for the music industry, the acoustics of hempwood is of significant value. There's my wife. Say hi, babe. She's our office manager here. So the acoustical value that also is derived from that high density turns it into great for musical instruments like guitars. I believe Tony's got one of those. For amplifiers, for headphones, for duck calls, for things like that. There's also that really high hardness is highly sought after in the building industry because it gives you a fire code rating that allows you to do commercial builds where your softwoods cannot. Like we do not make structural woods right now. We've got some IP on it, and I'm trying to figure out the business side of it. I don't want to really jump into something that I think is going to end up losing a pile of money, more than what we're doing right now. But it's not funny, Tony.
Well, the way you said it, it kind of struck me funny.
As people can tell, Tony and I talk most weeks. But he does represent us on the West Coast. So Tony does make the hempwood putters out there. For the putters, being able to have that really high hardness in the putter allows it to have a lot more of a kind of a pop to it when it's hitting the ball, rather than a softwood that would have a thud. So there are attributes like that that need to find their place everywhere. I can say that it's beautiful for making desks. It's beautiful for making cabinetry, for making things of that nature. We very often use a hybrid product model because that hybrid product model allows you to, like these tables here, it's actually plywood with hempwood on the top of it. Because it's so dense, the tables become too heavy and people have trouble moving them around. That was one of our first big learning curves with hempwood tables in restaurants. Our 120-pound, 20-year-old waitress has trouble moving around a 200-pound table to rearrange her workstation every day. And so we've had to kind of adapt. In addition, if you'll notice here, the legs that are on the table, we make them out of metal. And that's simply because we don't have a lathe for turning hempwood. Not in our mill here. But the natural elements go together really well, where metal or leather go very well with hempwood. They complement each other. And laser engraving tends to be a better alternative than a plastic sticker, something like that.
And it also makes great picture frames.
From the pictures that Tony has shared with me of the putters, though, oh my goodness, those are absolutely beautiful. And that's, I think the aesthetics of hemp wood, because when we think about hemp clothes and hemp fibers and things like that, we don't think about the soft, silks and cottons. And you think of something a little more durable, a little more rugged. But with the hemp woods, they're so beautiful. The grains in them and the way that those colors just come out and pop in those putters was just absolutely amazing.
Kristina has done a couple of pieces of NFT art for the HempWood Golf Club collection.
Greg, talk to me a little bit about what that process looks like. Tell me what kind of process does hemp have to go through to go from plant to a viable wood product?
Well, I can say that it all happens right there. Now, it is lunchtime. It's noon right now, so the guys are at lunch. But I can show you a little bit around the mill here. I'll have to make sure that it hangs with our Wi-Fi because we got 2 different Wi-Fi setups. Most of the guys are at lunch. Let me see if I can get this to stick around. So here is the press. That's where we make the hemp wood. Right now, guys are at lunch, but these racks are filled with hemp. They're going to be changing out the dryers again this afternoon and pressing another round of hemp. You can see all of these racks here are waiting to go into the dryer. Those ones are getting ready to come out of the dryer. So the other wing of the building, we don't have Wi-Fi very good. They come out of here.
So from seed to field to factory to finished good.
120 days. So we have the hemp comes in here to the tune of a truck every week or every other week. We break open the cell structure of the hemp stalk that looks kind of like this. They're 4, 6, 8 feet long. We break it open. We dip it into glue. The glue is based out of soy. It has an organic acid and some dish detergent in there. We then take that and dry it back out to 15% moisture content. And then we compress it into a rectangular log that's like a 6x6, something like that, 6 feet long, cut it into boards, and then those boards get turned into flooring. Once we press it, we do have to bake it in an oven. And that oven and the dryers are based off of our waste. So we burn our waste hemp to create our thermal energy. Our electricity comes from hydro. And so we are carbon negative process and product right here in Murray, Kentucky. From what I understand, we're the only one, but I do believe that there's other people trying to figure that out.
So you are able to support regenerative agriculture, domestic farming, local manufacturing, carbon negative, and cost effective.
Yes, sir. So I live on an organic farm, less than 4 miles from the factory here. We did grow some hemp last year on our farm. We're doing everything right. We just need the market to catch up with how quick we move.
Right. And I think that's a big part of the hemp industry right now is waiting for that infrastructure, waiting for waiting for the market to kind of catch up. And I totally agree with Tony. There are so many benefits there that come into play when we start bringing hemp back into the manufacturing process in the United States. It just seems like there is an incredible amount of opportunity here to kind of rejuvenate some of those opportunities here on domestic soil versus, all of the supply chain issues, all of the things that we're seeing right now. We watched the cost of wood this year absolutely skyrocket because of various things. So it's interesting to see how that market is shifting and really making hemp a much more viable option for people in these instances.
Especially now, and one of the big challenges that Greg and a lot of other people in this industry keep bringing up is the fact that we have 100-year gap in entrepreneurial development with this agricultural feedstock that we're suffering the bleeding edge. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Oh, yeah. So I can say that it would be much more fun to lose money by buying a boat than to start a hemp company. But I guess somebody's got to do it. So we are definitely pioneering the way. It is definitely the most difficult thing that I have ever done, the most difficult business that I've ever worked with. I've started 8 companies through the years. Some of them did very well. None of them completely failed. But I can say that this one's in English. I lived in China for 14 years. This is in my native tongue, and it's still more difficult than the bamboo scenario.
You know, and that's actually a good point. And since you've kind of been through this process before, I would love to have you kind of just elaborate on that a little bit, because I think people look at the hemp industry right now and, you know, similar to maybe the cannabis industry a few years ago, and all they're seeing is these dollar signs, and they're thinking, oh, I'm going to go out and plant, 3 acres of hemp, and in 10 months I'm going to be rich. Do you want to kind of talk to that mentality, I guess, about how difficult it really is in the hemp industry to get started?
Well, I listen to podcasts and things like that whenever I do have some free time. And I can say that there's a really good saying by a famous entrepreneur that starting a business is kind of like eating glass and staring into the abyss. Well, that is true for most businesses that you start, except for this one, you're on fire as well. And so it's absolutely mayhem, the type of things that you could deal with or have to deal with being in the hemp industry, because the first mover disadvantage is you have to teach everybody about something that has a 75-year gap in there. The first mover disadvantage is because we were the first ones doing it, federal government comes after you for everything. And I have been to federal court multiple times. I'm still on a payment plan for different agencies. And I did have to sell my house in order to pay some bills. So there's a lot of these things that, like, we are the bellwether for what's happening in the fiber side. But we're also kind of the punching bag for people to figure out some of the rules. We had the federal U.S. Department of Agriculture take us to court because the state of Kentucky did not follow the 2018 Farm Bill. So Kentucky's still following the pilot program. And so they come down, all the federal agencies say that what we're doing is not legal still. There is a whole lot of different scenarios with banking and shipping and just weird stuff, and they are all getting better. I can say that 2016, 17, 18 was a lot more difficult than 21, 22 from the hemp side of it. But then you throw this little thing called coronavirus in the mix and all guesses are out the window too. So it's a roller coaster.
And supply chain issues and everything else that's just really kind of crippled everybody, I think, in the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have so much problems with transportation that I just got a trailer that I pull around behind my truck. And when I'm going to visit different trade shows or customers or whatever it is, I just pull around a trailer full of hempwood, delivering orders along the way, kind of like Santa Claus trying to figure out how to still get stuff out there, because transportation has tripled in price. Very often people don't even show up to pick up pallet loads of goods. And the damages have tripled as well. I feel like Ace Ventura delivers every package of hempwood these days, where we've had orders. My mother's Christmas present was hemp picture frames. Now, this was not this Christmas, the one before, the first Christmas during COVID. And there was literally a forklift punched through the middle of the picture frame. And then it had a boot mark on it. And they said that the packaging was not up to snuff. And I was like, wow, really? There's literally a forklift went through the glass center of the picture frame that was wrapped in its proper packaging. And then there's a boot mark on it. And you said, yeah, misappropriation of packaging. So the world's gone mad. We're trying to do what's sane and what's right for our team here. The HempWood tribe is thriving. I can say that we need to have the market realizing more what we do and who we are.
You mentioned a trade show. We've got NoCo 8 coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yep. So we have NoCo coming up in 2 weeks. We'll be out in Denver. I will see Tony there. There'll be a whole bunch of our friends that we get to see every year. This year I'm going to fly so my truck doesn't get stolen again. Last year at NoCo, somebody stole our truck at the hotel.
Wait. What's that story? Your truck got stolen in Denver.
Okay, so we showed up to the trade show with a trailer in tow, 3 of us, and we installed the front entryway into NoCo with HempWood flooring last year. And we dropped off most of the stuff for our booth. They let us drive in. We showed up a day early. But I can say that we thought it would be safer to put our tools back into the vehicle and take it back to the hotel. Went home, had dinner, locked the vehicle. Next morning, get up, ready to go to the trade show, get stuff set up, get it going. And the truck's gone with the trailer. And we literally thought something was wrong. But we did have a radiator leak where we were leaking fluid out of the vehicle, just a little bit of a drip. And so we could clearly identify where the truck had been sitting the night before by where the fluid puddle was.
And this was at the hotel you guys were staying at?
Oh, yeah. Yep. This story gets even greater. So we went to the trade show.
Oh my gosh! So somebody stole your entire setup from the hotel where you were staying, and you used the radiator leak to track it down.
Oh yeah. So, and we had orders for like a half a dozen customers in the trailer still that we were supposed to deliver the next day. So it turned into a $57,000 insurance claim. We did manage. I looked at my team, and they were actually very young at the time, and I was like, "Hey, all right. So here's the scenario. Right now, we have a finite amount of loss that can occur from this theft. Whatever was in that truck, it's gone, counted as gone. There's at least a hard stop on what that is worth. Meeting everyone at the trade show can turn into a perpetual sales cycle that does not have a definitive cap on what it's worth. So I'll deal with the stolen vehicle and all of that stuff with the police. Let's get into this trade show on time and go sell something." So the hotel felt so bad about our stuff getting stolen out of there. The general manager of the hotel, which he was a really nice guy, his name was Matt, he got the bus that they usually take for taking people to the airport. He let us load that thing up with tools from the hotel downstairs, their maintenance area. He drove us over to Home Depot to pick up the remaining amount of stuff that we needed to set up our booth for the trade show the next day, some trims and a nail gun and stuff like that. We went and set it up, had a very successful trade show. We got our truck back on the last day of the trade show. On Friday night, they called me and said that they had found it. It wasn't wrecked, but it was run out of gas and the wheel was damaged. So they'd gone over some curbs or something like that, knocked the steering out of alignment and put a bulge in one of the tires. But we got the truck back. So I went Saturday morning from the trade show. Before the trade show, the guys got dropped off at the trade show. I picked up the truck from the impound. That's kind of strange. I've never had to deal with a stolen vehicle before. We went back to the trade show. We got everything under wraps, and we're really kind of making it and getting through at the trade show. So then that night, we went back to our hotel. We explained the situation, which they were all aware of. They let us park in the employee parking lot underneath of a light and a security guard and cameras. And they even gave a hotel room to us. And I put my intern in that hotel room that had a balcony overwatching the vehicle, just looking at it, just so something wouldn't happen.
That's intense.
And at about midnight, oh, just wait. At midnight,
it gets better
night,
from here.
I got a phone call from the intern. And he said, "Greg, please tell me you're going to get a midnight snack." And I said, "I'm not, and you're calling me really late. I'm in bed. What's wrong?" He said, "The truck is driving away again." They stole our fucking truck a second time in 4 days in Denver. So I didn't even last a single night in Denver, Colorado with a vehicle. They stole it the first night we showed up, and they pried open the door. Like they jimmied open the lock and busted the lock, and the truck now drives with a screwdriver. They popped open the steering column. So we got our truck stolen twice in 4 days in Denver last year. Turns out it was the auto theft capital of the world last year. We were 2 of 3,000 grand theft autos in Denver proper in the first quarter of 2021. So that was a interesting scenario. We did get
Now we know why you're flying this year.
I was just going to say, so on top of all of the other stigmas and issues that hemp has to go through in order to get its name out there, now you're also having to deal with auto theft and just generally unkind humans.
Yeah, we also had my partner in this business, the guy who helped build all this stuff with me last year, Charles Harris. He passed away from COVID on August 12th. So our machinist and general manager of the plant got it last year in August. We had the car theft twice last year. So we're just surviving. We're doing what it takes. I mean, I guess it's hard to beat somebody who doesn't give up. That's one point you could take from it.
What I was just going to say is, what a story for perseverance. You know, you just keep getting hit with the punches, but yet you just keep rolling.
That was mind-blowing.
Yep, keep throwing a curveball. Oh yeah, it's nuts. You can't make this up. At some point, I'll write a book, I guess.
Tell us a little bit about what you think, or from your perspective. I mean, what really needs to happen to help hemp become more prolific in manufactured goods and in increasing these opportunities that we have here in the United States? What do we need to do to change the perceptions, or to put that infrastructure out there? What really needs to happen?
If there was one magic wand that would change the entire method of manufacturing hemp materials in the United States, it is animal feed allowed to have hemp in it. So if you look at mainstream agriculture now, greater than 80% of your standard row crops are used for animal consumption. And right now, hemp is illegal on a federal level for animal consumption. I can eat it. I do eat hemp seeds. My wife, she eats hemp seeds. How often do you eat hemp seeds, babe? Every week? And we feed it to our chickens and our pigs and our cows at our house, at our farm. But if that was legal, that opens up 80 to 90% of the total addressable market for the real agricultural hemp, if the seeds are allowed to be consumed by animals. And so if you say it's 90% that's going to end up going into that stream, that's a 9x on the amount of hemp that would be grown by simply making something legal for animal consumption.
You know, so I have to comment on that simply because I was raised of field corn raising farmers, or field corn growing farmers back in Iowa, and I can't tell you there is nothing that would make me happier than to see hemp and the production of hemp take over some of that. Because I don't know if Tony told you this story or not, but I lost both my parents to lung cancer thanks to the chemicals that they use on the fields. And it just seems to me like hemp would be such a much better option in that perspective, and would help maybe clean up some of the mess from that, you know, years and decades of chemical, you know, laden farming processes that go on back in the Midwest there. And I just feel like hemp would really benefit everything from that perspective. And you know what? Before 1978, all of our livestock ate hemp anyway, because it grew in the fields. It grew as ditchweed. It grew as everything else. But it was in 1978 when the DEA actually started the Cannabis Eradication Coalition, and they sent out a bunch of DEA people out to become landscapers and start chopping off the hemp in the fields in the Midwest, because they were afraid that it was cannabis, or they were afraid that it was going to cause somebody to get high. And so my argument is what do we even know, you know, that we're missing? Because back in 1978, who knows what kind of health benefits or just overall benefits in general those plants were giving to the livestock that we were eating anyway.
Oh yeah, so I can go on about this stuff forever. I have a lung condition that is due to chemicals. I worked with formaldehyde in the bamboo industry and the wood flooring industry for more than a decade of my life. And so I don't scuba dive, and I'm not very good at mountain hiking anymore. I've been to the hospital 3 different times for it. I have chemical burns in my lungs that have taken away 4 to 6% of my lung capacity. It's like being a 20-year smoker, but I don't smoke. So there's certain things like that that non-organic materials do in both agriculture or manufacturing or even inside of your home. And people are starting to wisen up to it. Because if you look at building materials, you remember the lead paint scenarios of the 70s, where you have to register every house that was built before 1978, 1976, something like that, because it has lead paint. And that can cause mental disabilities inside of children that eat it or that are in contact with it. Well, then there was the asbestos that came about after that. And the asbestos in the floors and the ceiling tiles, and people are getting cancer from petrochemicals that are inside of the different materials in your home. And you spend, what, half of your life, now with COVID, more than half of your life inside of a building. People don't get out as much anymore because everyone lives in a house and then they work in an office. And so you had the drywall that caused significant problems 10 or 15 years ago when it would heat up with humidity and it would literally poison you. And now you've got formaldehyde that's in 85% of your engineered wood products that are in people's houses. Sounds like a problem to me. I can tell you I still am on a payment plan for medical bills from being hospitalized for that. So there are things that need to change, and it's typically due to greed that causes people to use unsafe materials or unhealthy materials because there's a greater profit to be gained. That's not what we do here. If you want something cheap, go buy vinyl. Good luck. If you want something that's made in America where you can look at your floor and smile every time, buy HempWood. You know that you're supporting your local agriculture. You're supporting your local manufacturing. You'll know that every person who works here at our factory has the ability to purchase their own vehicle or purchase their own home in the area that we live based off of one job working full-time here. So doing the right thing oftentimes isn't the most profitable way to do it, but it's what you're supposed to do, because what are you going to do? Die with a pile of money? And then all of a sudden, what's that get you? Nothing.
Bingo. Bingo. And it's so heartwarming to hear that come out of your mouth and to understand that, you know, and this is something that we talk about quite a bit, is that in the hemp and cannabis and in this new industry that we have an opportunity here to do things right and to correct some mistakes maybe from the way that business has always been done in the past, and to look at how things could be improved from other industries and implement those things now while we have this chance, while hemp is growing, and we have such an amazing opportunity to correct so many wrongs. You know, Tony, to your perspective in plastics, you know, I read a statistic the other day that said by the year 2050, there's going to be more plastics in the ocean than there are fish. You know, and that is absolutely terrifying to me. So, you know, for plastics, for hemp woods, whatever it is that we're making from hemp and trying to do this in a more responsible and more environmentally friendly way, I think is just the thing that has to be done at this point in society and in this point in humanity.
The thing that I'd like to focus on is incremental reduction in dependencies on petrochemical-based solutions. Every tick mark, every 0.5%, 1%, anything is, you know, a step in a better direction than what we've been doing.
That's absolutely the case.
Right. And it all has to start somewhere.
Unfortunately, when people start blowing each other up, everyone scrambles back to petrochemical. It sounds like one stupid idea of starting a war then turns into the effect of everyone scrambling back to petrochemical. It's, instead of doing the right thing, you do what scarcity allows.
Now you have the compounded effect of the, you know, current crisis impacting the oil market and the cost per barrel, and that just translates to the petrochemical market. So now you're seeing a significant escalation in the price per pound of various different plastics. So it all translates.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, where you look at climate change in the building industry causes people to use more destructive products to the climate. So the reason vinyl flooring is so popular is because it's waterproof. The reason waterproof is so popular is because changing weather conditions have caused greater floods, humidities, and storms. And so people don't want to have a natural product that water can have issues with. And so they buy a petrochemical vinyl floor that then causes further climate issues.
Where now, as corporate governance in that entire landscape, that shift in mentality with ESG based initiatives, and the list goes on and on. But now the term that I keep seeing popping up everywhere is circular economy, regenerative agriculture, and carbon negative.
Oh yeah, we are carbon negative with I would love to say zero waste operation, but we're not. We do have one dumpster of waste material that gets taken out of here every 5 weeks or so at our facility. So we do try to minimize it as much as possible. The circular economy, we're literally growing your house. And so it is happening. It is working. It needs the market to support it. And so that's why I go on podcasts. I'm not a big talker. I don't go on this stuff because I like to. I go on this stuff because the word needs to get out, and people who are professionals in a certain field or industry are who you're supposed to rely on. Like Kristina, being in the podcasting industry, makes a much better podcast than some redneck who makes flooring.
Or some redneck that makes putters and baseball bats and skateboard decks and frisbees.
So, yeah, let's talk a little bit then about, if you could wave a magic wand and just say, that the infrastructure was there, what does the future for hemp look like? Can we really viably replace, all of our petro use, or do you think we can really reduce it to next to nothing and really look at a brighter future from that perspective?
I would say that hemp is not going to save the world, but hemp can be a single-digit percentage step in the right direction in multiple facets. In agriculture, which helps with the climate, in manufacturing, which also helps with the climate and employment, and with human consumption and the healthy materials that are in your house, improving people's health. So if it's 1% or 5%, just depends how good I do my job. And that will affect the wood industry, that will affect the flooring industry, and it can affect the sporting industry. So, you could get a 1 to 5% shift in many, many different fields. And that's what hemp has the possibility to do. Not going to change the world overnight, but it might create some jobs, and it might create a little bit healthier home, and it might create a little bit healthier soil.
True. And, another perspective from that is I really feel like the more that we see these headlines about hemp and the good things that are coming from hemp production and hemp cultivation, and even if it is just consumption and healthier living and those kinds of things, I just feel like hemp is really kind of helping to open up our eyes to the fact that there's a lot of things out there that have been done wrong, from the way the foods that we consume and the way that they're produced, to pharmaceuticals, to the chemicals on the fields. I feel like hemp has that possibility to kind of force us into a role of accountability, kind of admitting that some of these things that we've been doing for so long probably wasn't the best way and that we need to make some changes. So what's in the future for HempWood? What's in the cards for you over the next couple of years?
Well, if I don't die of a heart attack, we're going to drag this thing across the finish line. So we are looking at, right now we have 28 to 30 employees here in Murray, Kentucky. We are trying to scale our current production at our plants here. We are trying to become year-round carbon negative, not dependent on the weather, which we are carbon negative as a whole. But in the wintertime, there's a lot more thermal energy required. We learned this year with our scaled up production than what we can create from our waste. So I need to add to that for next year. I would like to continue to scale and automate our current production in order to have a lower price point for customers so we could get more of a wide scale. We are directly competitive with your traditional domestic hardwoods like white oak, black walnut, hickory, hard maple. But those are only the top 30% of the flooring industry and the face grade hardwood industry. We are looking at a decking line, making like a Trek style decking with our sawdust. We're putting together some capital right now. We're in the middle of a capital raise, and that's kind of a pain in the butt with lawyers and bankers and all that stuff. But we're putting together a couple $1 million to come out with a decking line that's recycled plastics with our sawdust. And we're working with Oregon State and Murray State and Lincoln University to try to set up a West Coast low moisture content or low humidity second location to make some panels and to make some larger size dimension hempwood, as well as decking, what we call OHB, that we have a patent on, making oriented hemp board. And then spread it across the world. So we have our patents in the US, Canada, Australia, European Union, India, and China. So once we kind of become the masters of our own domain in the domestic market here, spreading our wings into those other areas so everybody can get that 2, 3, 4% boost in taking away the dirty stuff and putting in the clean stuff.
Tony, do you want to talk about NoCo one more time? And you know, Greg, you might want to jump in here too. Just talk about maybe what your plans are for the NoCo Expo this year, and remind us what dates those are too, Tony.
Yeah, so NoCo 8 coming up Denver, Colorado, the 23rd through the 25th. And Greg, you are a content presenter there, correct?
I do believe I'm doing something. Usually they tell me to dance, and I'll dance.
And HempWood is also hosting a vendor booth there, correct?
Yes, sir. So myself and Aaron Rydell will be manning the booth. Everybody should stop by, come and see us. We'll be the only HempWoods there, so let's get it.
Will you have a HempWood putter on display?
It depends if you bring one, Tony.
Will you have a HempWood skateboard on display?
I do not have any HempWood skateboards.
What about a HempWood guitar?
I'm sure there will be a HempWood guitar there. There'll probably be some Frisbees too, wouldn't there?
I think so. That'll be pretty exciting. So I can't wait to, I've never done anything like this before, and this is going to be my first time speaking, sharing any content. I'm on a panel on Friday afternoon at 1:00 about manufacturing with hemp. And I'm just simply going to share my passion for Made in the USA, which is a big part of how I relate to Greg, and what I can do myself, and things that I've made, like the Frisbees and the putters and everything else. And Ben Williams from Highway Vodka is going to be there. I'm going to give him one of the HempWood bottle openers. Hopefully, start a conversation there. Ian Sieb from the governor's office. It's going to be a pretty cool deal, and I'm excited about this. And can't wait to see you both there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think the NoCo Expo this year is going to be a whole lot of fun. I think one of the things that we're going to see is that people are dying to get back out and start mingling and start talking and start doing that networking and go to these events again. And so I think this year's NoCo is going to be a lot of fun. I've been there to that location for another expo at the Gaylord Rockies. It's a phenomenal location, absolutely wonderful place. So it's going to be a great expo. Looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing you both there.
Yeehaw. So Greg, if people want to learn more about HempWood, where do they go?
So go to hempwood.com. You can find our email address on there, which is sales@hempwood.com. You can buy something right there on the website. You can send us an email if you're looking for something. You can give us a call at 888-338-1235. And yes, those are all Fibonacci numbers.
Great. Let's thank our guest, Greg Wilson, and the Urbanomics host, Kristina Etter, out there in Colorado.